How are you? All good?
Good.
Are you excited about the conversation with Baz?
Yeah.
I have some good news. He would love to hear your questions at the end of the session. So can you prepare your questions from now? And at the end of our Q&A, I will start selecting some of you for questions. So good luck and hope you enjoy that.
Shukran.
Okay, all the years I've been doing this, let me fangirl. I'm fangirling because I'm doing this in conversation with you. So that's me complimenting myself for being so happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's hot outside, so it's nice to have a fan.
Absolutely. Or several tonight. Everybody prepared your questions, huh? All right. So I will start from the start because I do feel that creative juices in life start from childhood.
Sure.
You grow up in a creative household. You know, your mother, your dad owned a cinema. Isn't that where it started for you?
I mean, I think maybe even more than that. Like we talked a little bit earlier about your own journey. Context, I think, is what amplifies creativity. And you know, I saw a beautiful film, and it was shot in a little. Yesterday, I won't go into it, but there's a very, very tiny, what you guys would all call a village. Tiny village. It's so tiny. My village was tinier. You know, it is the tiniest village in the world because it was about 5 houses, I think 2 of which had nobody in it. So it was a very small place. And we had a gas station and we had the farm. But for a while, my father did run the local cinema because of a circumstance. And then Dad was really, really obsessed with having creative people live with us, you know, artists and painters, anyone who could come and stay and help educate. And the other thing was that my dad was in the Vietnam War, and there he learned photography and filming, and he actually met my mother through photography, but he was obsessed with teaching me how to use a camera very, very early. So I would get his Bolex straight 8 camera and make movies from. I don't remember ever not telling stories or making stuff up or doing a movie or shooting pictures or having my own radio station at the gas station. You know, I had one record actually. You know, it was like a kid with a radio station. It was, hello, this is Radio MOBIL. Welcome to Aaron's Creek. And the song is called One is the Loneliest Number. I used to play it over and over again. So I just have always, I've always done this. I've just always done it.
It does feel, meeting you, that you've always done this, that it was viscerally part of you from a very young age. What did you used to listen to and watch? You know, obviously your dad did manage the local cinema. Did it give you access to more movies than you would?
Sure. I mean, it gave you. It wasn't. I mean, in those days, like I'm quite old. We had double features. You know, so we'd have like a sort of 50s Flash Gordon, because science fiction back then was not the cool thing. It was considered a bit not cool. And then we'd have like Hello Dolly. And although I know it's a controversial movie in a contemporary sense, I viscerally remember, because I'd be in the bio box where you project the movie. And I remember the cans turning up that said Lawrence of Arabia. And remember seeing that projected would light up and you'd see that. And I think you never get over the magic of the flickering light and the picture. You know, you never get over it.
Yes, the magic of movie making.
You know something I should mention? People often say that I called my cinematic language the Red Curtain trilogy. But the reason for that is that in our cinema, because Australia's part of the Commonwealth, we had a red curtain. And the red curtain would like open, it was probably electronic. And actually there was a film of the Queen of England would come on. And we'd all have to stand up and sing God Save the Queen before the movie. Right? So I hope you'll do that when you see your next movie. Can you imagine how funny that is? Now I think about how funny that is. She was like on a horse and we all said, God save, la 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 la. And then we'd sit down and be like, Chrome and Hot Leather, a biker movie, or Frogs, the horror film. You know?
Ones that the Queen probably would never watch.
Yeah, I don't think she was into horror that much, you know.
So we'll come back to that called Ballroom Trilogy, which was strictly ballroom to start, and then Romeo and Juliet and Moulin Rouge, and all those wonderful movies. But very simple question, you changed your name from Mark to Baz Mark. What prompted
Yeah,
it?
it's funny, I mean, it's actually, I think it's wrong in Wikipedia because it's written up like a nickname, but it is actually, okay, here's the story. I mean, it's not that
your
interesting.
first name is Mark.
I was christened Mark
Yes.
at birth, and then there was the period in Herons Creek, a small town. Then my parents had a very acrimonious splitting up, and it was very dramatic for us. And at some point, my dad remarried, and I ran away. I ran away from, I knew I would never stay in the little village. It was a bit like in this film I saw, it was so heart-wrenching,
Yeah.
this young girl's going, I just can't stay in this village. I'm reading this magazine, I want to be part of the world, and I was always like that.
It's so funny how sometimes you see a movie and it reminds you
Yeah.
of something, although you're completely far apart.
I totally could see her, and I mean, I think, I'm segueing now, I will come back to the name in a minute, but I think some people are just born with what we might call Wunderlust, or just a sense of always wanting to know what is around the corner, of always, I think it's a sort of pothos thing, the Greeks would call it pothos, which is always looking for some, it's like there's a voice around the corner, and you can hear it, but you never quite find out where it's coming from. So you're driven constantly to be going down the yellow brick road, if you want to use the Wizard of Oz metaphor. And some people just don't want to leave home. You know, they really don't. They're like, I love the village. I'm perfect here. This
There's
is my
no place
world.
like home, as the Wizard of Oz says.
You know? Exactly. There's no place like home. So there we go. So, oh yeah, the name. So what happens is I run away, and then eventually I reconnect with my mother. She puts me in quite a fancy all-boys school. And I'd been in this quite experimental one in the country. It was a strange thing, because although we were in the country, we were also on the beach, and it was a service school. But it was a Catholic school. It's a long story, isn't it? Anyway, it was quite experimental, and it was kind of really free, and it was you know, mixed genders, boys and girls. Then there was this really conservative Christian brothers school, and such a long story. My father's one thing was he made sure we had extremely short hair. Right, we had to have this buzz cut hair during the 70s when everyone had long hair. I cannot overstate how uncool that was.
You were not a hippie.
No way, it was just like shame. We were shameful. It was like, people go like, the Luhrmanns, they have short hair. You know, and they would like talk to us, they'd beat us up on the bus. Here comes the guys with short hair. I mean, kids are cruel, right? So when I run away, I'm free. I just let my hair grow mad, and I had, believe it or not like now, I had really, really curly hair. So the kids used to tease me and get quite violent, but they'd throw stuff at you. And they used to tease me and call me after this character on television, Basil Brush, which was a sort of glove puppet. Glove puppet. I can't believe I actually did this, right? A glove puppet. And to get revenge on them, they used to call me Basil, and then everyone just sort of called me Baz. So I went at the age of 19 into Depot, you know what that is? Into the government, and changed my name formally on my passport to Baz. And then I said, hell with you, I'm going to take that name, and it's going to be my sort of stage.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to let you take it away from me. So I sort of grabbed the name and made it my brand, I guess. That's the story.
That's a great, great story. We say in Arabic, Ism al-Fanni, as in my artistic name. And you're so Baz
They
Luhrmann.
say Ismail.
Ismi, which is my name, al-Fanni, the artistic, my artistic name.
Is it?
Ismak al-Fanni Baz.
Ismail Effendi Baz. You know what? Some people are born with great names, but you know, it's funny. I've got to be really careful because my wife says, Baz, you know, sometimes you can't help yourself, you name drop too much. I go, but these are the people I work with.
Exactly,
so
that's your
I
name.
have to be really careful. And when I do, she goes, bing. She makes a noise like bing. So if I'll say like, oh, Paul McCartney was so nice for something, like bing. You know. My friend Bono, bing. His name isn't Bono.
No, it's Paul Houston.
Exactly. Another friend of ours, Sting, Bing. His name is not Sting, you know. So, and I think this thing, actually, I talked to Bono about it. I mean, now this is going to end up in the press and so come out silly. But we were talking about it, and actually, I remember, no, it wasn't that. It was his friend's birthday, and he did a poem. He has a friend called, I think it's Googie. His friend is Googie. And as a bunch of kids, they all named each other. They all gave each other nicknames because I think they were defining themselves. Names, sometimes names really suit people, but they were defining their characters. It's a kind of claiming. And I think they were claiming each other by giving themselves names. I think probably that's what I was doing. I was going like, nah, doesn't really suit me. I'll take Baz.
Baz is much more Hollywood.
Thank you.
So did you have a clear artistic vision from the start? Because I didn't even know that, but in my research I realized that, you know, you funded your own theater company as early as 19?
Yeah, I'm not sure I funded it, but oh no, I did actually. You know what I did? So what happens is, okay, so I've always done this, and I mean that in the sense I did it at the gas station, then I ran away, and as soon as I ran to the city and I grew the hair and they were teasing me, calling me Baz, I was going and set up a theatre company in the city. So by the way, I graduated appallingly at school because I was never there, you know. And I'm ashamed to say I deceived my mother that I was going to school when in fact I wasn't, and I won't tell the terrible story about how she caught me out because it was a shocking moment. Just don't ever mention something you see on daytime television because she might check it out. But what happens is I did that, and then let me think, I was really lucky. So there was this, I had one amazing moment of luck. So during high school I had theatre companies going, and there's this great drama school. We have one truly great, well we have more, but back then we only had one. And Mel Gibson had gone, and Judy Davis, and Kate Blanchett.
I love it.
How about esteemed actors, bitch?
No, please name drop. We love name dropping, don't we?
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Anyway, they're all going. I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I was graduating from school. I had done nothing particular. I'd never been paid professionally, right? And I went in, and there was this audition on, and my friend got me in there, and I went in, and it was playing actually a pimp.
Was that the Judy Davis film?
Yes, and what happened was, my sister had one of those things, you know, with gold things on that, you know, makes wind chimes. So I took that off. She was only like 5. So I stole her wind chimes, and I made earrings out of them. I drew a tattoo on, shaved my head, did it green, and went in, and I convinced them that I was, in fact, penniless and homeless on the streets. Anyway, I come home from school, high school, and my mother says, well, what are you really going to do? And I said, I told you, I'm going to do stories and be in acting like that. And right then I got the letter that said, you did not get in through the National Institute of Dramatic Art. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is not how I wrote this. This is not how this is meant to happen. I meant to get in, like, what's... And I can't believe this really happened. It sounds like a miracle. The phone rang, picked up and said, hey, look, that audition you did, you're going to star opposite Judy Davis in a movie. And I said, that's amazing. I said, great. And they said, well, we're only going to pay you $2,000 a week. That was a fortune to me. And so when Mum came home, I said, oh yeah, Mum, I'm actually in a movie with Judy Davis. I'm going to get paid $2,000 a week. I used that money to fund my theatre company. And I started a theatre company, and I was acting in movies, and then a little opera company as well. So yes, long story short, yes, I did fund my company.
Was your mum impressed?
I don't know if she's still impressed. What's my mother?
Isn't that always
Guys, do we know mothers? They kind of,
Yeah.
they can be complicated,
Yes.
right? Put up your hand if your mum's not.
Yes, they're here to criticize.
Yeah. My mother is an interesting character, and I tell you who was impressed. My older brother, he's a bit of a fantasist too. And when I finally, they're all, because I was making little movies and stuff all the time. It's all that thing of, and you know, I don't know if you're in the arts. Certainly where I came from, everyone would go like, yeah, but do they pay you anything, mate? And everything was happening to me. I go, oh no, I'm just making this little movie. Oh yeah, right. And
It's like it's not a real joke.
yeah, to get money, right? And my brother went like, so you're in a movie, right? I went, yeah. And he went, and did they pay you anything? I went, $2,000 a week. He went, yeah. Well, now you're a superstar. The question is, how are you going to stay there? He just went straight to superstar. I said, I'm not really a superstar, just me. But it just happened very organically, and I've never done anything else. You know, never done anything else. I started with the theatre bit and all that. Judy Davis did say to me, though, she said, because what happened was I moved out of home really quickly, and I stayed with her. She was so kind to me. She let me stay with her. And she says, you know what would be really important? You shouldn't just act and be in the theatre. You need to go and get some real jobs to understand what that's like.
Yes.
So in the break between that movie and my theatre company starting up again, I worked at the library at Parliament House, and I went to sell jeans at a market, of which I was absolutely abominably hopeless at. Because I told everybody the truth about the jeans, you know. They say, how do I look at these jeans? I said, not good. You know? And they go, well, I'm not good. Yeah. I said, not good at all. They're not very well made. You know? And they said, well, I'm not going to buy them now. I said, it's probably a good idea, actually. And the guy fired me.
That was also the universe telling you, go back to movies, Baz.
Yeah, I had to fall back on that acting and making movies things, yeah.
So then, obviously your first film was strictly ballroom.
Yes.
But your second film, Romeo and Juliet, has anyone seen it? Surprise, surprise. Only your second feature film, and yet, Berlin Film Festival sensation, BAFTA sensation, box office sensation. Did you expect that global phenomenon? Were you ready for it?
Well, strictly ballroom was a bit of a surprise because it was at Cannes. I was discovered at Cannes, which is why I have to say, guys, how important festivals are. I have sat here, I've seen 17 films, and it's been an extraordinary level of quality, just absolutely reminded, sometimes 4 films a day, reminded just how different storytellers can be. And one day, 35 years ago, I made a film, Strictly Ballroom, after a play I devised called Strictly Ballroom, about my experience in ballroom dancing. We had one exhibitor. I think I told this story the other night. We had one exhibitor, one theatre had taken the movie, and the guy that saw it, who owned the theatre, he walked out and he said, he walked out before the end of the movie. And he said, it's my first movie. He said, that's the worst movie I have ever seen. And you have ruined this older actor's career. She ends up winning Best Actress for the role. Sadly, she never knows, because she dies before this all comes about. I leave with Catherine Munn and my other friend. We go up the coast. I told this other night, but I shaved my hair off. And I think, well, my film career's over. That's never going to happen. I'll have to do theatre for the rest of my life. And I was in a van park, and this woman comes out and goes, Baz, there's a guy on the phone with a funny accent. And I'm like, okay, I've got half my hair shaved, and it's raining, and I'm holding up like a bucket over my head because the night before a guy had been killed because a coconut had fallen out of a tree. And I'm like, I got the phone here and a bucket there. I'm going, hi, and he says, my name is Pierre Rission. I see a bad French accent, I know. Yeah. Anyone speak French? Anyway, my name is Pierre Rission. I'm going to offer you a place. It's a Cannes Film Festival at 12 o'clock. Screen the movie, can't believe it. Screen it. From that moment on,
that's it.
Romeo and Juliet was different though. Because after Strictly Ballroom, I eventually did a deal with Fox, which was an overall, they call them. But I had all these crazy rules, and everybody wanted sort of Strictly Ballroom too. Can you make another dance film like that first one? I said, no, I want to do a Shakespeare film. And I'd done a lot of research on Shakespeare. How would he direct a movie?
And in your theatre days, you had done a lot
Yes,
of
I'd studied Shakespeare deeply. And they were like, Shakespeare films never make any money. No. I said, yes. And I did a whole lot of workshops to convince them. And then I was thinking, who can play Romeo? And I saw a picture of this very young guy in a magazine. And I thought he was either model or, because he was really, really romantic looking. And I said, look, we need someone who looks like that. And he said, actually, that is a young actor called Leonardo DiCaprio. And he had not done Titanic or anything. And I said, oh, who's that? And he said, he's been really good in this movie. So I go to Los Angeles, I meet he and his dad. I said, look, this probably sounds crazy, but I had managed to get 2 business class tickets. Why don't you both fly to Australia? We'll workshop, and if you like the idea, we do it. And Leo, being Leo, cashed in his tickets and flew just bucket class. Right?
For the footprint.
Yeah, bringing his 5 friends with him. Right? Flies down. They all turn up. And by the way, the 5 friends are all in the workshops. I cast them in the videos I've got, you know. And we made the videos to prove it, and then we proved it, and then we made the show. And to answer your question...
Did you expect the global phenomenon?
I tell you what happened. I don't really ever think like that, but I'll tell you something. I went and I screened it. I made the film. Just before the opening weekend, I screened it for... I have to be careful, I think a Bing is coming up. I screened it for a fantastic woman that we'd met who collaborated on Leonardo's suit, Mucha Prada. Bing! And Mucha and her husband were the first people to see it. And that was in New York. And I got on a plane, and by the time I flew to LA, MTV was big then, we'd done a special. We landed, and someone had told me it was #1 at the box office. And I remember going around the corner, and we went to the last opening, and Leo got out of the car, and all these girls started screaming like he was the Beatles. I was like, I think we're going to be all right. Yeah. So I didn't, not the fact, although I make my films for the future, there's a documentary being made about the enduring influence of Romeo and Juliet on popular culture now. Someone's making one right now. I mean, what is it? Nearly 30 years later? So I didn't expect it to go on and on and on and on.
But it does. It does. And it's so relevant today. I mean, you can watch it as if you've watched it in the 90s.
For sure.
Another movie you may have watched, The Great Gatsby. Just because we're speaking about Leonardo DiCaprio and very different times in your lives, sure. 17 years later when you did The Great Gatsby. How was the experience later? Because as you say, it was the beginning of the Baz phenomenon. It was also the beginning of the Leo phenomenon.
Yeah.
So reuniting for Gatsby, how was it?
Leonardo, and in fact his family, George, his dad, I never go to Los Angeles, I don't go for a walk with George. And Leonardo and I, like some performers you work with, and you have a very professional relationship, some you have a very warm relationship, but a few are actually long-term, deep friends. And Leonardo is like, I saw him just the other day, and like, it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't say brothers because I'm so much older, but we're that close, and I'm that close to his family. So when Gatsby came around, though, he's really, I'd grown, he'd grown, and the biggest difference was that Leonardo had so much more agency in the development of the idea. He was a creative partner in it.
Yeah.
And this was a great thing. And really, even though we're friends, he would put me through the ringer. And what I mean by that is, he would not leave a stone unturned in terms of asking the question or challenging the notion or how we were going to do it, because ever since I've known him, even from the age of 19, that's when we met, he's only really obsessed about 2 things. One is acting. He's obsessed with that, obsessed.
With the craft.
The craft, like, and the other is the environment. People think his environmental commitment is newish, it's not. He was 19 and he was so obsessed with the world we're living in and the environment we're living in and how not to destroy nature and his passion and love of the natural world. So, yeah, but he was more, we were more partners on that. We were a partnership, yeah.
Was it a coincidence that both were books, or it just happened that way, book adaptations?
Sorry?
Both were book adaptations.
I think, that's a good question. I think Romeo and Juliet, look, Shakespeare was like, I loved Shakespeare. Someone had done what I did with the film for me. When I was very young, I was at school. There were 2 experiences of Shakespeare. I had It was in such a small school, there was only one room. You know, the small little school. And we had nuns, you know, Catholic nuns. And we had a bookshelf, and I went over to the bookshelf and I went through the books, and there was one with a tatty cover, and it was called The Merchant of Venice. And Sister de Chantal came over and she said, "Oh, that's from our most revered author, William Shakespeare." And I opened it up, I read the first few lines, and I went, "I will never be able to understand that as long as I live." And I put it down. And then when I was in high school, I went, and a national treasure of ours, who's a great director called Neil Armfield, was doing a production of As You Like It. And we were all, you know, kids, dragged off to see Shakespeare, rolling our eyeballs, go into the theatre. We go into the theatre, and it was Club Med. There was a marimba band on stage. Dun, 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 dun. There was lights. There were people handing out sort of folk cocktails, people dancing. I'm thinking like, hang on, this is supposed to be a Shakespeare play. La, da, da, the music gets louder. La, da, 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 la, da, 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 louder. La, da, 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 da. We're going like, we're all sort of chatting and talking like we're at a party. La, 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 bang! Silence. Slash of white light. Petruchio comes on, smoking a cigarette. If music be the food of life, play on. Boom! Dun, 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 off we go. I don't remember how that 2 hours traffic of the stage passed and how it was that I just could understand every single word. That was the revelation of Shakespeare when I was 17. So when I made Romeo and Juliet, I was trying to do the same thing on film. So I had a journey with Shakespeare. I think with Gatsby, I never understood the book at school.
Yes.
I never did. And I was a mad Robert Redford fan. I love Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid. I love that film. We played it at our cinema. But I never really understood the Gatsby. What I do is, after big projects, I sort of go off on my own and try and debrief, you know? And I was doing a debrief after Moulin Rouge. I was on the Trans-Siberian train from Beijing to Moscow on my own. It's a longer story, but it wasn't the romantic thing you might think it would be. It's kind of clackety old, sort of cold. I was like, oh, what am I doing? This is so the air conditioning is freezing. And this babushka woman running out, she goes, we'll see me here is the rubber hose, shower is down there. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I had a recorded book with me on an iPod, this new technology, the iPod. And I put it on, and I had a bottle of red wine and stuff. I fixed the air conditioning, and it's going. So I put it on, and it's in my younger and more years, and it was The Great Gatsby. And I listened to it all night long. And when I listened to it, I thought, oh, this is done in film form, because it's a novella. This could be a great film. So, is it a coincidence that they're adaptions? I think it's just they were just great stories, and I thought, could I convert them to film?
It was the universe.
I think so.
Making its
I
magic. Okay, in December of last year, I went with my family to see Moulin Rouge, the musical in London.
Oh, really?
And
thank you for buying the ticket.
And one word to express my feelings, happy. This film has always made me happy. So let's flash back to the sensation of Moulin Rouge, because the experience and the legacy of this film are both amazing. What does it mean to you?
Well, when we had the little cinema, right, part of my unusual diet of cinema was that probably in the 70s, when everyone else was seeing the French New Wave, at our movie house, we had like old movies, like musicals. And on our one black and white television, we got cheap television. So we would get things that in those days no one respected, like Casablanca or, you know, Citizen Kane, but a lot of musicals. So I had a real love of the musical form. And I always thought, gee, I think I want to make that work for our time, our place. And that was my mission, was to find each period has its way of doing a musical. In the 70s, they tended to be very realist, you know? You could count like Saturday Night Fever as a musical. And that was my mission. And I just got to a point, after Romeo and Juliet, I had a sort of creative freedom where I could basically make anything I want, any way I want. I mean, I don't make them very often, you know? And I just said, no, I want to make the musical work. And they're like, oh my God. And people I love, right, and respect, I'm not going to drop a bing, But a Hollywood being said to me, it was very powerful, said, the musical will never be popular again. You're wasting your time. You know? And I said, well, maybe, but I'm going to have a go.
Okay,
and that
who
was
was that? You have to pick this one.
No, I can't do it too. Let's just say he ran a studio and he was very famous.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So it was a producer.
He actually, I'll give it away. He's one of three. What am I doing? Don't do it, Baz. Take the hand away from the lever.
Exactly. Let's go back to Cannes and Montée des Marches and that whole
and the
experience.
opening. But it was really, a lot of people didn't believe it could work. And I never doubted that. I just thought it was so much work though. It was one of the hardest films I've ever made. I mean, Romeo and Juliet was kind of very joyful and so cool. We lived in Mexico, we made it there, crazy romantic stories. But Moulin Rouge was inside sound stages in Sydney and we never saw day. And we rehearsed for months and it was just technically very hard to make.
Nicole Kidman, Leonardo DiCaprio, do they become muses to you, at least during the project?
Well, they're two, I said friends, like they are to Hugh as well. I mean, Austin now too, I've become very close to, but Nicole and Leonardo are actual long-term friends. And I worked with Nicole when we edited Vogue magazine. She was that's the first time I worked with her. We were the guest editors of Vogue. So I guess that was before Romeo and Juliet. So that's how long I've known her. And we're always thinking, what can we do together?
You did that beautiful commercial for Chanel as well.
That we did. We did that Chanel piece, which was, I can't really do ads, but we can make a world event. And, the guy that owned Chanel said, a world event, that would be good. I would like that.
She is arguably the nicest woman. I think she's just a sweetheart, Nicole Kidman.
She is that, and she's also incredibly loyal, and one of her great gifts is that she's at her best when things are at their worst. So to be with Nicole when something hasn't gone right, or going through personal tragedies, which we both went through, two very difficult things, she's so good to be around for that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming into the room, I told you that I played the soundtrack of Romeo and Juliet on repeat. I still do. I just completely love it, and Moulin Rouge as well. I mean, music is part of your cinematic narrative. It's not just a soundtrack. It's the way you tell stories. Tell us more.
Actually, I actually make a lot of music. When I was going to do Moulin Rouge, I learned to produce. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I work with the greatest producers in the world. But I love music so much, I actually make a lot of music. So I used to hide my producer credit in a thing called Blam, but now it's kind of more out there. I have a label with RCA. So ever since I made this soundtrack called Sunscreen, which wasn't a film, it wasn't a film soundtrack, it was a record. And then I produced, and I see when I'm writing and developing the script, say with Craig or collaborating, I equally develop the visual script with CM, but I also develop the musical language at the same time. And then I bring it all together in one script, because I consider music as legitimate a storytelling material as the spoken word, as I do the visual language. They all have equal weight, because that's what cinema can do. It can use all of the art forms, to tell a story.
That's what you're famous for. And the cinematography, and obviously CM, as in Catherine Martin, your wife and partner for the past 27 years, and 4 times Oscar winner, and such a wonderful woman.
It's true, she does have 4 Oscars. Very hard at breakfast, guys, I gotta tell you.
Does she put it on the table?
Yeah, she's like, boom, 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 boom with the Oscars there. She's like, what should I have for breakfast? I get indigestion.
I think your creative collaboration is one for the books. What has it meant all these years?
I mean, it's very special, organic. I like to think she came to, I'd done Strictly Ballroom, the play, had my little theatre companies. And she went to NIDA, but not while I was there. She went to the same, I don't know if I mentioned, I eventually did get into that drama school.
Oh, really? After that?
Yeah, what happened was, I forgot to say, yeah. So got that bit. So I did
They
the
saw
movies.
you with Julie Davis.
And that's exactly what happened. I was terrible at auditioning, which is why I've become good at helping actors to audition, because I don't audition them, I workshop them. But I didn't get in. I made a movie, and then I got my theatre companies going, and it got so embarrassing. At some point, they went like, listen, if you still want to come, you're in, right? So I did get into theatre school, and I did all that, then I left and kept doing my stuff, and then CM, she went there. Anyway, I needed to find a designer for my new opera company. And I had heard there were these two brilliant ones, CM and someone Angus Strathage worked with. I asked them to come and meet me. I was living in this kind of really boho flat in the red light district. And she walked in, and the other guy wasn't there. And I just walked in. We sat on the floor. We were meant to meet for an hour. 4 hours later, we were still talking about Bertolt Brecht and Madonna. She was just starting out then. And art, and life. And I think that conversation is still going on today. That's what keeps us together.
I was hoping she'd be here tonight, actually, because
You know
she was
what
here
she
with you
is?
at the festival.
I know, I forced her. I said, you're not coming here unless you go out to Allura and see how amazing it is out
Yes,
there.
exactly.
So she went there today, and I think the plane's late coming back.
Hopefully you guys will make a movie there, because I can see the whole creative fusion.
Yeah, it's an amazing place.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely. I love it too. All right, Australia. A movie I love, and I think didn't get enough love. So how happy are you that now you can showcase it as a TV series in Far Away
Well,
Down?
yeah, I mean, look, it was very fraught. It was amazing to make, but it was very fraught landing in the US. The strange thing with it is, and I never think any of my films are perfect, never. Just, I know they're working. But it is still, Australia the movie is still the biggest movie I've ever had in Europe. Still number one. For some reason it was huge in France and Spain and places like that. However, when the pandemic came, I was about to have my first day of shooting, and it's the scene where Tom Hanks guides, Leonardo.
Austin.
Don't tell Leonardo. Austin, don't tell Austin, no, Austin around. Anyway, my AD says, I think Tom's got that flu thing.
Yes.
And I don't know if it happened here, but that night on CNN across the world,
Everybody
Tom Hanks
was
was the
talking
first
about it.
person to get COVID.
Yes, first
And
famous
everybody
person.
went like, if he can get it, I can get it. Right?
Yeah,
And
it was
that whole-
incredibly viral.
Yeah, like,
Incredibly
because
viral.
I think there was a lot of, is it real? No, he's overreacting. And when Tom got it, and he was so ill, and they shut the set down, they rushed me into this estate. We had guys, with blue hazmat suits and all that, and suddenly we locked down with my children, CM, and her parents at a distance, like another building. And I went like, when we all did it, everyone in the world went, the movie's gone. What am I going to do? I'm going to be... So I went and I started to think, gee, I shot 2.1 million feet of film on Australia, the greatest amount of footage ever shot. And in the back of my mind, I always thought, yeah, I really wanted to do it as a true epic. But back then when we released it, movies were very pressured. They had to be really shorter. But streaming had come along. And I thought, wow, the thing about streaming is it's episodic. You could do it in episodes. So I rang up Hulu. I said, look, while I'm hanging around here, Hulu is like Disney now, Disney Plus.
Yes.
Said, send me that 2.1 million feet of footage. Maybe I can do something with it. And thankfully, it's just gone out on Disney Plus as a 6-part. Six-part sort of episodic film, which I think I was able to lean into what I was aiming for, which was to take an old-fashioned movie style, like a melodrama, a romance set in the vast outback, but turn it upside down and tell it from a First Nations Indigenous child's point of view, which was a big scar in the history of our country, is that the government institutionalized taking away mixed race children and locking them up and lying to them about their I mean, it's so heart-wrenching, it's hard to say, lying to them about the existence of their families. And I wanted to find a sort of way to draw a big audience into that, not a small audience. And so I was able to lean into that. And you know, the theme in the show is, as Drover says, you just saw him say there, you can't really own land, you can't own a child, you can't own a relationship, you can curate it, you can have a spiritual relationship with it. In the end, the only thing you really own is your story, which is to live. And he's just trying to live a good one. So I was able to lean into that theme more.
I can't wait to see it. I mean, I'm happy it's finally out. I thought, oh, Baz worked again with Hugh and Nicole.
I know, some people thought I went and reshot it or did a sequel, you know. But the reason I call it Faraway Downs is I've changed major plot points, and I've also worked with all these emerging, young, indigenous, First Nations pop stars to make some great music, some very cool music in it.
Oh, fabulous. All right, Elvis, we spoke about how hard it was to make Elvis, you know, not only because COVID hit and kind of shut your production, but also it had taken you 5 years in development before you even shot that first scene that got shut down.
Yeah.
But what kept the stamina, you know, the story of Elvis himself, what it taught you about fame?
Yeah, it's like, the reason these things take so long is I love the research. Like, I could live the research. Because I guess I come from a very tiny village, whenever I do a Gatsby, I go and live in New York and live like, well, if not Gatsby, Fitzgerald, you know? And I had an office in Graceland for 18 months. But you see, it wasn't really about Elvis. I believe biographical films or storytelling at their best, you're taking someone's life and you're using it as a canvas to explore a larger idea, you know?
It's not a documentary. It's important to say that when it comes to biographical
And although
films.
everything in it I can point to has a factual truth or a basis to it, I just want to explore this thing of the relationship between Colonel Tom Parker, never Colonel, never Tom, never Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, there was no precedent in popular American culture before Elvis there was no teenagers. They were almost invented by Colonel Tom Parker and Elvis. They sort of rose up at the same time. Teenagers meaning young people suddenly had money to buy records.
Yeah.
They were suddenly a business. Before Elvis, they didn't have their own money. But after the war in the 50s, suddenly teenagers had radios and could buy music, and they were worth something, and the Colonel realized this. So it's this kind of cautionary tale in a way of flying too close to the sun, rising up and then falling, that success and adulation, when we make human beings, no matter how gifted they are, into idols, it eats away at them, because we always want them to be more than human. We want them to be eternal. We want one more album, one more movie. We want them to be perfect, but they're just people. And that draws away at them and destroys them, and that's what happened to Elvis.
Yeah, true. Was the casting of Austin against all odds?
It was certainly majestic. It was like miraculous is a word that comes to mind. I mean, I went, I'm not making the movie unless I can find someone to play Elvis, because I've been researching it for 3 years or something, and that was really fun. I thought, great, I'll never have to make the movie. I'll never find someone who can be as good looking, as talented, sing like it was never going to happen.
Ding.
And ding, yeah. I think it was more that Austin found me, or found the role, than I found him. It was so, I can tell this now, but he carried a very precious secret with him that he didn't tell me till much later in the process, and that is that he lost his mother at exactly the same age that Elvis did.
Yep.
And it affected him profoundly, because she was the one that took him to auditions and, you know, helped him start out in the biz. And I never, his work ethic, you know, was like, Denzel Washington rings me out of the blue. I don't know Denzel at all. He rings me, says, look, you're about to meet Austin Butler. Austin had just done a play with Denzel on stage, and he said, I've never seen a young actor work as hard as this young man. You're gonna be bowled over. And I was. And when the movie went away, I told everyone to go home from Australia. The movie's gone. He wouldn't leave. He said, I'm not leaving. He said, I'm not leaving. And I remember, because then we got out, we went locked down, and you'd see him walking up and down the beach. People thought he was mad, because he had the headsets on, yelling into the ocean, Elvis's voice, things like that. But he willed it back, I think.
Yeah. That was a beautiful performance, and a beautiful collaboration, I think.
It was,
and you could really feel the essence of it.
100%, and yeah, that's funny, because Leonardo, I don't know if I've ever said this, but Leonardo was really kind to him. He sort of took him aside and talked to him about not the role, but when we realized what we had, we knew. Austin suddenly became famous before it opened. That never happened.
Yes, because of the buzz around it.
Buzz around it, a bit of social media. He was on the cover of GQ, and that never happens. And Leonardo really sort of got him ready for what was about to happen to him, because it's kind of like a wedding that never ends and you're the bride, you know? It's like, yeah, isn't it fabulous? Yeah, it's great. Isn't it amazing? Oh, no. It goes on and it never stops. You go like, I just want to take my shoes off. But unfortunately, fame is not like that.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't just take your shoes off, no.
That's true. I'm stealing a little bit of time from the questions, but I'm going to ask one more, which is, why I know you're very active in between movies, but last time was 9 years. It's never been less than 4. Why does it take you so long? Is it the energy it takes you to put into a movie that makes them so far apart?
It's a good question. I mean, the first part is debriefing. I live them. Because I'm involved in conceiving them, in developing all aspects, be it the music, the visual, all about the casting, Then I do the albums. Okay, produce the albums with great producers, with great people, great artists. And then I do the communications and something. And actually, almost all my movies have ended up in the award season. And you can't say no to the award season. And let me tell you, my friends, that's a lot of chicken dinners that you go to. Because it's a lot more than just what you see. Like award season, oh my God, it's getting crazy. Like it is now starting. I think we're back to the Oscars already, and people are doing, the Gotham Awards begin. And like there are so many you've never heard of that you go to, and it's just a thing. And
that Oscar buzz.
Yeah, well, there are all these smaller awards that you have to go to.
It's like campaigning to be president.
Can I tell you, I've done a political campaign for our Prime Minister. We won. Thank you, he was a good guy. It's exactly like that. There's almost no difference. It's that relentless. So I have to debrief getting out of it. And then I tend to do that by doing other creative adventures that I wouldn't normally do. Like Sim and I once did a hotel in Miami, like we created a hotel, or the magazine, or I make a lot of music, or...
Get Downs.
Yeah, well the Get Down was for Netflix, like it was one of their first shows they did, and that was an amazing...
Yeah, it's a
that nearly
world.
killed me, that show. That was just like...
70s with a touch of Baz.
Oh my God, that was just like, I had so little experience, I didn't know what I was doing, and eventually I got drawn right in the middle of it, started collaborating with Grandmaster Flash and all the OGs and Nas, working with him, and my gosh, you know what, the thing with that stuff is that you finish one ep and you're sort of writing all night long, and actors are going, where are the pages? And we're like, I'm over here cutting. It's like, it really, you got to be careful when you go into that streaming, because it's really relentless, But it was a great adventure.
So what's the next adventure? She says, dying to know.
I am in my process where I've debriefed. I've definitely debriefed. Ish. I just need to do these things are going off a bit on my own for a bit, just to be with myself and listen. Like I always say, listen to everyone, but then listen to yourself. And I just need to make that moment of, usually it's a train trip or a boat or something where I'm not me, no one's going like opening a door or giving me a seat at a restaurant going like, what do you mean I can't get to the restaurant? I never go, do you know who I am? I hate that stuff. But
I know Denzel.
Hey, yeah, I hate him. My friend Denzel's going to be. But I've always got so many pieces in my mind that I scribble on. And I'll never make all of them in my life. But what I do is kind of work out which of them will make my journey worthwhile doing, make it worthwhile spending years doing it, but also is worth putting out there for an audience. Like, there's so much noise out there. You know, it's not to criticize things, but there's just so much stuff out there. And I would rather retire, which I am considering doing, and not put more noise out there if I can't put something that's actually useful and can be worthy of someone's incredibly precious 2.5 hours when you invite them into a darkened room with strangers to look at something that they can't walk out and either be uplifted, moved, feel something. It's got to be worthwhile for the audience. That's all I care about. And if I can't believe I can do that, then I wouldn't do it. You know.
He's very reluctant.
Hey, all right. You're working with a studio, are you?
Yes, on commission.
Chop, quick.
Okay, I've stolen 5 minutes from the fans. I apologize.
Sure.
But Ali, let's start with the lady at the front. They're going to bring you a microphone.
Why don't I use mine? What's your question?
So my name is Hira. I'm a filmmaker from Pakistan, and you're wonderful. You're one of the, I can't express it enough with words, but I'm really fascinated to know about one of the things that makes you really unique, which is the pace of your movie.
Yeah.
The editing style, like it's so, like your world is so heightened, and even though it's based off of like either literature or real people. So how soon do you start working on that pace, and when is that moment when you're like, yes, this is the pace? And your editor, how closely do you work with your editor, and do you have any production challenges? Thank you.
Right, by the way, that is a truly, truly great question, and I'm not just being nice, by the way. And by the way, I'm not giving anything away about what I've seen, but there's some amazing movies coming out of Pakistan. There really are. There really are. No. There's something going on down there, but I don't mean that. Listen, that is a great technical question, I'll tell you why. Because when I started out, as you know, the tradition in movies mechanically is slow in. So for realism, what you do is, like I always think the realistic beginning of Strictly Ballroom, I don't know if you've ever seen that film, but it would be a car arrives at a suburban house. Mum would get her groceries out, credits. And by the way, I'm not bagging this out, but this is how movies tend to be. Credits. Boy combing his hair, pretending to do cha-cha moves, Scott, are you getting ready for tonight's ballroom dancing, la la la? Setting the table, getting to know the characters. We're sneaking up on you, slowly letting you peer in and learn about the characters. But I wanted to reinvent a kind of theatrical cinema, but in a shocking way. Now, it's not shocking now, but back then, 30 years ago, I mean, look, let's just flip that. Like, what if we interview the mother as if she'd lost her son to, an addiction to drugs, right? And, what he'd done on the dance floor was so sinful that she was ashamed. And we'll interview all of them. And then we'll do it at such a pace that the audience have got to go, like, first of all, they're going like, she's going to be, my son Scotty, what he did on the dance floor, in front of Barry Five. I can't, and it, well, what did you think of me doing her? I thought I did it really well anyway. The thing was that this idea of really, really challenging the audience with pace, challenging it, that was Jill Bilcock, who's one of our great editors. She had edited really great movies. And we said, let's do it, let's completely change the rules. Let's make it so fast, until you, the audience, go like, this is either madness, and you lean forward, but once we get you right to the very end, there's what I call signing the contract moment, which is go, and then we stop. And you lean forward. And then usually, say in Moulin Rouge, the signing the contract moment would be something like when Ewan and Nicole sing your song at the end. And you're either in and participating, or you walk out. You know what I mean? You go like, too crazy for me. And it's challenging the audience to participate in the movie. It's participatory cinema. Like, you're involved. I'm not pretending you're not there. And so that started with Strictly Ballroom, and Romeo and Juliet, same thing. So what you're really talking about is this, and I can't tell you, like, you weren't born then, but when Strictly Ballroom came out, I can't tell you how this simple thing upset the critics and filmmakers so much. They were like,
too much change.
They were like, yeah, put him in jail. You know, he's got to be in cinema jail forever. He's broken the most, important rule. But I was doing it on purpose for this reason, because they're sort of old-fashioned in their structure, and I wanted you to receive this kind of very direct emotion, but to sort of check your intellect at the door for a minute, not ultimately, but like to be thrown off guard, so that you could be open to the emotion and therefore open to the larger intellectual underlying idea. And all of them have some big idea. So it's a really good question. I don't know, here's the thing. Now, all of the newer movies are the younger movies are really fast. They do it anyway, because they jump the line as well. You know what that is? Like, people used to worry so much about the line, but because we're all on TikTok and stuff, no one cares, Anyway, I'm babbling on about filmmaking, but that is a great question. Go for it, Pakistan.
All right. Here, please. Do we have the microphone? Just in the middle in white.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I wrote that question in my phone because Raya is a bully. She will bully me. So,
Bully you about movies?
no, you bullied Will Smith. I saw it. Anyways.
Ding. I'll meet you in the foyer. Ding.
Yeah. Did you try?
Wait. What's your name?
Faris.
It's first, right? Ding. Okay.
So, what techniques and stylistic choices do you believe are essential for creating a timeless cinematic experience, and how have you incorporated, and how have you... I made a mistake.
Stay with it. You're doing really well.
Okay. And how have you incorporated these elements into your own distinctive filmmaking style?
Okay, well, good question. I kind of started to answer it there. Now, what you're saying is, I think it's up to every generation to invent, and every generation, but also every individual storyteller, to know the rules and then break them. You can't break rules if you don't know them. So you need to learn the fundamental craft of storytelling, and they are universal. But to have your own language, it's like when you go to a party or you're at a dinner and someone's a really good storyteller. Let's say they don't do this for a living, they just, your friend. And the one that tells a really good story, it's not just the story they tell, it's the way they tell. They go, there was this great bit, and then all of a sudden, this guy comes in and he's got a beard on, and this really long beard, and I grab it. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, the point is that it's the way they tell the story. And I think that as you get through your craft, the more that your film telling becomes more like the way you actually tell your friends a story, the truer it is for your own particular style. You end up with your own. With me, I'm so old, they call it a sort of cinematic language, Sometimes not in a good way, Oh, it's so Baz Luhrmann, and they're talking about a salad, too many elements in the salad, all chopped around. But finding your own way, your own language is super important, I think. Well, it's a journey, it's a lifelong journey. And sometimes your language changes because you change. I don't know if I'll make another movie, but if I do, I can't guarantee it's going to be in exactly the same voice or styling that I did when I made my last film, because you change, So that's been my counsel, is learn the rules, but then make them your own,
I am so sorry, but we're out of time. We have to wrap, but can we say an enormous thank you to Baz?
Shukran, shukran.
Thank you guys for being such a great audience.
Thank you guys. Go out and make good stories, all right?
Hi.